Hello everyone, my name's Michelle and I am the writer at Hearthside blog. This video is about my article entitled Odin, a Trickster. So when I wrote this, I had just finished watching a video by Ardith called Animism, the Trickster Spirit, and he was talking mostly about tricksters and relating them to the character of Loki. But I've always thought that while Loki's the most obvious trickster within the lore, Odin is also a trickster spirit, and I feel like we simplify things too much, trying to say that Odin is one of the Aesir, he's a god of order, a god of the upper class. But Odin's a god of war, and war isn't orderly. That's the reality. War is chaotic and gruesome, and even when you plan it out, and try to plan in advance, there's always going to be something that you can't plan for. So to say that Odin is completely a god of order, that's just oversimplifying it way too much. And on top of that, he's not just a god of war, he's a god of so many things, and you see him in the lore going different places in different disguises, tricking people, changing his name, all of these things that you kind of go, come on, this is a trickster god, this is a trickster spirit, this can't just be that really square character that you would think, oh, the Aesir, they're gods of order. He doesn't fit that mold, not really. So I was inspired at the time. I was reading through the Volsungs Saga, and one particular scene, Odin comes and nobody recognizes him. He's in a disguise, and if someone was telling you the saga, or if you're reading the saga as the reader or listener, you would be like, that's Odin, it's so obvious. But nobody in the story was aware that this character who walked in to Volsungs Hall was Odin. He was just an old man who mysteriously appeared with a sword right when there was a wedding feast, and he took the sword and right into Burnstock, which was the tree that I interpreted as the luck tree of the Volsung family, basically. And there's some speculation whether this tree grew out of the seed from the apple that the gods gave in order for Volsung to be conceived. So this tree is a vital part of the story about the luck of the Volsung family, and so is this sword that gets thrust into Burnstock's trunk. But in the moment they're like, oh, this is a gift, it's a wedding gift, whoever can pull this sword out of the tree, then the sword belongs to them. And that seems like at the time it's a very good thing. But if you look at heathen practice and the practice at that time, the husband would be the one who would pull a sword, and it wasn't usually out of a tree, it was out of a beam in the hall, and that was showing his worth basically as the husband. So when the husband in this story is not able to pull it out. He's been slighted, and the person who pulls it out is Volsungs' son, Sigmund. And that seems like, oh, it's a gift to Sigmund from Odin. That should be good, right? Except that same sword is the sword that when Sigmund goes into battle later on, it breaks in half. And it breaks in half when Sigmund is fighting against Odin. Odin appears in the battle again, and the sword breaks, and then Odin kills Sigmund. So you have to ask yourself, did Odin give Sigmund a gift? Or was Odin putting into motion so that he was able to take Sigmund's life? Because if he takes his life in battle, then, well, everyone's familiar with the idea of if you die in battle going to Valhalla, so that means potentially that Sigmund's life now belongs to Odin. So it's tricky when you're thinking about Odin as a character of order. He just sort of ruined the luck of this family because he wanted Sigmund for Valhalla, it seems. Odin does things for his own reasons. And I mean, all of the gods do things for their own reasons. But Odin's reasons for doing things don't often align very well with what humans want to happen within the lore, or what other gods want to happen in the lore, or what the Jotun want to happen. What Odin wants quite often is at odds with all of that, and so he's in many ways a very similar character to Loki, and it seems like they have a certain kinship that's beyond them just having this sort of blood brother type relationship. They're both tricksters of sorts. And Odin's main goal throughout the lore seems to be trying to prevent Ragnarok, trying to prevent the future from happening, but he never is successful in that. But what he is doing throughout is he's trying to gain more knowledge, he's trying to gain more wisdom, and he's using trickery in order to achieve that goal. And he is successful in gaining a lot of wisdom, but you see that the wisdom isn't enough to change his fate, whereas Loki seems to fairly successfully change the course in which things go. But they're both trickster figures. They're just the type of chaos that they are working with is a little bit different. And that's how they can both fit together in the same myth cycle without it being confusing, I would think. But yeah, I've spent a lot of time thinking about Odin's character, especially in regards to being a trickster character, and a lot of different beliefs from around the world. They do have these trickster figures in them that they're sometimes very helpful to mankind, but they're doing it for their own reasons, and you can't rely on them all of the time to be on your side and benefiting you if you're asking them to change something for you or to help you get something that you want. You can't 100% rely on them doing that, or if they do. What's the price for that? Another example outside of heathenry that I can think of would be Maui. He does a lot of great things for humans, but there's always some sort of price involved. And also within the indigenous cultures in North America, similar figures. Whiskey Jack, and I know that's the anglicized version, but I'm not going to try to butcher the indigenous word for it. But his character is one that is a trickster who usually helps humans, but you can't rely on him 100% to be helping humans. So that's the kind of character we're looking at. Whereas some of the gods are, it seems like, truly sympathetic towards humankind, like Thor, for example. Odin is a difficult character, not one that you would find unworshipful, but one who you definitely need to use a certain amount of caution when approaching. And that's because he has this trickster nature to him. I think that pretty much sums up what I wrote, and even probably exceeds it at this point, because it's been a while and I've had time to rethink it a little bit. But yeah, I hope that you enjoyed this article, and I will see you again soon.